Deebo Samuel. This is big news. Deebo Samuel, calf strain, 2 weeks. And unfortunately, the last time the Niners said a player had a calf strain, it was more than a calf strain, and it was more than 2 weeks. So right now, they're probably telling the truth, but I can't take it for granted. I remember the Christian McCaffrey story, and it's really an Achilles strain with him. So this happened on 1st and 10 from the 13. It was the third to the final last play of the game. What do you think of this news? How are the Niners going to handle having no Christian, no Deebo?
Well, it's not good, Grant. I'll start with that. I know that's some deep analysis. It's not good. That's my analysis. Ian Rappaport actually said a few weeks, for what it's worth. And the scary part about this is what happened with Christian McCaffrey. Week 17 last year, calf strain, which turned into the whole entire offseason, which turned into training camp, which turned into he could play in a preseason game if we wanted to. If it was a regular season game, he would play. Now, then it was if it's a playoff game, he would play. And now he's on IR. So it's concerning, man. Whenever you hear calf strain, you automatically go to Achilles. And you were saying that. Everyone else is kind of scared to say it. You said it, and you were right about it.
They're connected.
They are. It's, like connected. That song.
Yeah.
The
Achilles bone is connected to the calf bone. That's science.
Yeah. It is biology, to be exact.
It's biology for sure. Here's my issue with this. It's like this happened at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch the play. 1st and 10 from the 13. There's a bunch formation to the right. It's Kittle and Jennings blocking for Deebo on a slant. And then you have Ayuk at the top of the screen. Maybe I'm wrong. I think I'm right. Ayuk one-on-one at the top of the screen. Like from the 13-yard line, you think Deebo has a better chance to get in the end zone breaking tackles than Ayuk does winning one-on-one? Like, why did you pay Ayuk if that's what you do in that situation? Like, that's asking Deebo to break tackles and do a lot of physical stuff where Ayuk just has to beat one guy in a route.
He's probably your 4th best option in that situation, right? Ayuk, Kittle, Juwan Jennings, probably a better option in that situation. So that's unfortunate. But Lucy, it feels like to me that these kind of injuries are really like an accumulation, right, of usage. It feels like.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, for those who don't know. But that's what it feels like to me. That's what it seems like, right? Christian McCaffrey took so many snaps last year, and it kind of boiled over. Deebo, the first week or two. Also, I got to give a shout out to the coach who pointed out like the overtraining of Deebo Samuel to get into the shape he was in could possibly be a bad thing for him, which, when he said it, I'm like, what? But I mean, he could have been right on that too. So a lot of focusing in on Deebo in these games, maybe possibly too much training in the offseason for Deebo, or maybe just a freak accident on that one play. It's hard to tell, but it's not good for the 49ers, man. Without CMC, Deebo kind of interchangeable with what they do. CMC's a better runner, but they're kind of used similarly. Losing both changes this offense quite a bit.
You make a great point. Like, my first instinct was, well, I didn't like the play call, and they forced it to Deebo, but it's so much bigger than one play. This is the accumulation of usage. And if this calf strain didn't happen on that play, odds are it was going to happen down the line. And that's football. Like, I don't think people realize, you think of Deebo and McCaffrey in particular as being like right in the middle of their prime. They're 28 and they're versatile, but essentially what both of them do is run the ball from different places, but they break tackles, get a lot of punishment. They're not one-on-one on the outside so much. So 28 for them might be 30 for someone else. So that's a little disconcerting to think that two of the most important players here. This is why the 49ers paid Brandon Ayuk, right? They understood, look, Deebo's great, Christian's great, but what's the longevity there? Kittle's 30, 31, 30, about to be 31. So you got to have a future here. Now is the time for Brandon Ayuk to pick up the slack. He doesn't want to be the fourth option to run first offense. Boom, you're the number one option to pass first offense. Let's see what you can do.
Right, and 5 targets, 4 catches for Brandon Ayuk. So he kind of made the most of his targets. A little bit different with the body language for Brandon Ayuk. I don't know. It's just he doesn't seem like he has that confidence right now that you're used to seeing from Brandon Ayuk when he's on the field. That dominance, and I don't know if it's just because he's out of football shape. But I do expect Brandon Ayuk to make a comeback at some point and get back to where he was last year. I don't know how long it's going to take him to ramp up, but it needs to happen quickly with the absence of Deebo. But this also creates opportunities for Jacob Cowing. Chris Conley has an opportunity to step in here. So we'll see, if the 49ers made the right decision paying these dudes, or if some of these younger rookies can step up and take their place. And Cowing has a possibility of doing so. Ricky Pearsall might be back in week 5. So we might see him step in. And I think this season is really going to be about that. We're going to see, did it make sense to pay all these dudes versus just go younger and cheaper and insert those guys? It's supposed to be plug and play offense, right? That's what everyone says. So
let's not forget that I think a day or two before the season started, the Niners renegotiated Deebo Samuel's contract and turned his base salary into signing bonus, which means that a few weeks ago, Denise York wrote him a check for like $16 million. That's how signing bonuses work. And she did that with Christian, and she did that with Brandon, and she did that with Trent. Those were 3 big signing bonuses that she paid recently. And so far, the return on the investment, not good. Brandon Ayuk doing nothing. Deebo Samuel hurt. Christian McCaffrey hurt. I asked Kyle on the conference call today, was the time off that Trent did the time off Trent Williams take affect his performance against the Vikings? He goes, well, I don't really know how to answer that. He was decent in the game, but I don't know if that has anything to do with the time off he took. So you're telling me the highest paid left tackle in football was decent, and you don't know if that has anything to do with the time off? It better have something to do with the time off he took. Otherwise, you got a big freaking problem. So I heard that the upper ups are upset. I'd be upset, man. What is going on with this team? It's old, it's expensive, and it's falling apart.
4 pressures allowed by Trent Williams, 1 sack allowed, which is second only to Colton McKivitz for the 49ers offensive line as far as how many pressures were allowed. Very unusual game for Trent Williams. A lot of stunts. So for me, it's hard to judge necessarily, but there was definitely one play where Trent just got beat one-on-one and that's the one where he gave up the sack. I don't know, man. It's not – I'm not thrilled about the way this season is shaping up with all these injuries, the way that the defenses are coming at Kyle Shanahan. Brian Flores has Kyle Shanahan's number. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. 2 games last year, this year, 17 points allowed. People are there's a group of defensive coordinators throughout the league that are figuring out Kyle Shanahan. So here's the thing. I always try to look on the bright side. Maybe the loss of Deebo Samuel, who Kyle Shanahan constantly uses as a crutch, can actually translate to being a good thing for the 49ers, because he's not going to have CMC. He's not going to have Deebo. He's going to have to learn to spread the ball around and use different pieces.
Let me ask you this. What does the Niners offense look like without Deebo and Christian? Those two are, all pro weapons. One was offensive player of the year. The other one could have been. They're both out at the same time. They still have Kittle, Ayuk, Juszczyk, Jennings, Mason. That's a lot more talent than a lot of teams have. What can Kyle Shanahan and Clay Kubiak and the brain trust on this team do without those 2 key players?
Well, the good news for the 49ers is they play the Rams this weekend, who cannot stop the run to save their life. So what you do is
Plus Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are hurt.
Yeah, Cooper just got
to the side of the ball.
Yeah, so the whole their offensive line is banged up. They're beat up. They're a hospital. The LA Rams is currently a hospital. All they have to do is run the ball with Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason has shown that he's one of the best players in this offense this year and really reliable. Just run the ball with Jordan Mason. That's the plan. The problem, though, is like I said, Garindo he only had 1 play, but he read that hole completely wrong. So I don't know what they're going to do behind Jordan Mason. And Kyle Shanahan likes to lean on Deebo in running situations, although it was dialed back against the Vikings. But who's going to spell Jordan Mason, give Jordan Mason a breather? They got to figure that part out because Isaac Guerrero, it was only one play, but he completely read it wrong. So what are they going to do to spell Jordan Mason and give him a breather? Because they can't just the entire game. He's got to come out sometime. So that's
I'm with that
question.
I'm with that. I mean, I think they're using Jordan Mason as much as they possibly can right now. The running game is great. The issue is more of the passing game, especially third down. And it's like I don't know that Jordan Mason can do much. You can check down to him, but he's not Christian McCaffrey. Last year, the Niners' third down conversion rate on offense was 47.5. It was fourth best in the league. This year, it's 30. Hold on. This year, it is 34.8%, which is 19th best in the league. Is that all because Christian McCaffrey isn't out there? And if Deebo isn't out there, like, how are they gonna move the chains?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like Kittle and Jennings are having good years. Is this going to finally force Kyle Shanahan to feature those two?
That's the thing. It could be a really good thing, honestly, for the 49ers. Could wake Kyle Shanahan up and make him realize that
he's been too obsessed with Deebo anyway.
That's my thing. He's too obsessed with Deebo anyways, in my opinion. And he leans on Christian McCaffrey too much while he's there. So having these guys out forces him. You got to use George Kittle, who's one of the best, if not the best tight ends in the NFL. You should be using him far more than you are. You got Brandon Ayuk, who has better hands than Deebo, gets open more than Deebo. Even right now, as rusty as Brandon Ayuk is, at the separation, Brandon Ayuk was better than Deebo. Deebo had the worst separation in that game yesterday. He had a great game. When he gets the ball in his hands, he's really good. It's getting the ball into his hands, which is a challenge, and why Brock Purdy had to throw so many tight, contested throws.
Yeah, and like maybe if Deebo hadn't been on the field last game, if he had taken himself out, maybe Kyle Shanahan actually takes a shot into the end zone to Brandon Ayuk. I asked Kyle on the conference call, post it later. Hey man, when you went back and watched the film, how'd you feel you handled the clock management on the final drive? And would you, in retrospect, would you have liked to take a shot into the end zone? And he hates when anyone, especially me, asks him a question like, "Hey, like, do you think you did the right thing here?" He's like, "Well, if football doesn't work that way. You can't just tell a guy to take a shot into the end zone. Like, if we had forced him to take a shot in the end zone, he would have gotten intercepted." It's like, what? What are you talking about, man? Brandon Ayuk is making $30 million a year. Purdy could be making $60 million a year. Like, if the freaking Tampa Bay Buccaneers had 1st and 10 from the 13 and Mike Evans was one-on-one, fuck the play call, man. We're throwing a fade to Mike Evans right now because he's going to catch it. Like, do you not have that confidence in Brandon Ayuk? And if you don't, what are you paying for? He's one-on-one.
He should have that confidence in Brandon Ayuk. And another guy that, this is going to sound blasphemous, but Chris Conley is more prepared for that type of thing than Deebo Samuel is. Believe it or not, that is the truth. So I want to see what Chris Conley looks like in that role as wide receiver 2, and I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see BA wide receiver 1, Conley wide receiver 2. They might mix in Cowan for his speed, and then Jawan Jennings. That's an actually better group of guys that can get open and catch the ball than with Deebo. Deebo's a weapon, a great weapon, but that's what he is.
It's going to be interesting to see how people frame this. It's such an interesting diagnostic for so many people on the Niners. And I think a lot of people are going to say, like, okay, let's see what Brock can do without Christian and Deebo. And that's legit. But I think people also say, we'll see what Brandon Ayuk can do without Christian and Deebo. Like, there's no one in the way anymore, man. Let's see you be Justin Jefferson. Go get 15 targets and carry the team. And then finally, what I would say is, let's see what Kyle can do without Christian and Deebo Samuel. Because again, Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, that's more talent than most teams have. And look at what the freaking Saints are doing with Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and Taysom Hill, and a few other people I've never heard of. They're lighting it up. So Kyle, he's a certified genius. I think he should be okay.
He should be. And again, man, this is weapon 1 and 2 for Kyle. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo. That's 1 and 2 for Kyle. You're taking that away, and you still have a really good team. I honestly think Chris Conley can run better routes than Deebo and create more separation than Deebo and probably has better hands than Deebo. Deebo is just amazing when he has the ball in his hand. He's almost uncomparable in that regard. But it's getting the ball into his hands. Like, he had 8 catches, 110 yards this past week. And None of those throws were really, I mean, a couple of them, those deep crossers tend to be open, one on the sideline. But outside of that, he was zero separation. I mean, it's not me saying that. That's the statistics. There's a chart that shows it. Zero separation for Deebo Samuel. So this might actually be a blessing in disguise. And they're playing the freaking Rams, who have a putrid, horrible offense. If you can't beat the Rams without those guys, you're going to have trouble beating anybody without those guys.